Your presentation today is it organic, really? Now, is the term organic, has it become kind of a useless word?
Yeah, that'd be fair to say. It's become a marketing term, what I refer to as a shameless marketing term, like heart smart. You know, I guess anything that's not laden with grease is heart smart, but you have to pay to actually label something as heart smart in Canada, and they've got similar labels in the States too. And you have to pay to be certified organic, and whether you really are or not doesn't really matter as long as you pay the fees and do all the paperwork and don't ever get caught cheating. So less likelihood of being a bald-faced fraudster here in North America. But in China, Indonesia, Mexico, the people working on the farms, sometimes even the people running the farms, they don't even know that it's being certified as organic. This is all just something that happens through the broker-trader process after the product leaves the farm. Of course, the farm physically has to be inspected, but that's all done on a pre-announced basis. There's no surprise inspections. And most important of all, no testing. No testing at all. So that's changing a bit now in Washington. There's a guy there who wants to start testing 10% of farms. Man, what are you guys waiting for? A test is a tenth the cost of the paper-based audit that organic farmers have to go through year after year. Every year they have to reprove that they're honest. And the most honest ones will tell you, I could have made this up last night before you got here, and they know you're coming. So in any case, to answer your question, you literally pay to play when it comes to being organic. Now that's not to say that, I ballpark it at 80% of the organic farmers, right around these parts here, probably organic. They have neighbors who will, if you're putting purple diesel in a car that's not for farm use, your neighbor might rat you out. That's just the way life is here. We're more sort of civilized. We have neighborhood watch and that kind of thing. But as I say, over in China, they don't even know. The guys working on the farm don't even know, these are organic beets going for sale at the Whole Foods in Canada or the United States. So it's quite a free-for-all.
So would you say the process is broken? Or is there even a legitimacy to the process that
None.
Farmers have to go through the certification?
None. Right from the get-go, it was broken. They made it broke, and they just pushed it with marketing. So quickly, President Bill Clinton, no enemy of the environmental organic movement, President Bill Clinton in 1997, in conjunction with the American Consumers Union, again, no sort of right-wing friend of Monsanto, they decided, organic farms should be tested. Just stands to reason. I like to say 1 test per farm per year, kind of like Olympic athletes, right? And you test them during the games, not after. Because you might know Roundup dissipates in like 28 days. Synthetic fertilizer basically dissipates as soon as it dissolves. So you got to be there. And that was Bill Clinton and the American Consumer Union's take on it. So from 1997 all the way to 1998, this got watered down into nothing. But give Bill Clinton some credit. First of all, he refused to pass it. Second-term Democratic president, he can do whatever he wants, but he doesn't. He sees this watered down. He says, I'm not passing. He leaves it for George Bush to pass. Some people say, well, he was leaving it for Al Gore so he could have all the glory. I don't see Bill Clinton giving anyone, even his own wife, glory. He would have passed it, but he had once they took out testing, he said, this thing stinks. But they left in the verbiage of how you would test if you did. So in other words, they left in a threshold. Because you've probably heard, they found DDT at the North Pole. Nothing is pure. So you can't have just 0. You have to say, okay, the threshold will be this much. And it's kind of complicated, I won't explain it, but they left that in, and then the verbiage occurs after that. It's watered down, and it says basically, you don't have to do this if you don't want to. And all the certifiers are private. Can you imagine if all the police forces in Canada were private, they'd do anything they could to cut costs, right? So the certifiers were like, we're not going to do a test, it costs money. So, as I say, it was watered down. Now come to Canada, the Canadian standard, they didn't even put the verbiage in. There is no threshold at all. So it's literally a complete free-for-all. And when I pointed this out, and I pointed it out for the last 10 years while they were writing it, and when they finally came out with the standard in June of 2009, I said, you guys didn't even put in anything about testing. Well, Michel Samir, God bless him, I think he means well, he's the head of the organic program at the CFIA. He said, well, we didn't have to put it in. He's French-Canadian. And he said, we didn't have to put it in because everyone knows the threshold is 0. It can't be. It cannot be. Like David Suzuki will tell you that. So by not putting in a threshold, it just shows they're not serious about it. And he claims they will start testing. As I mentioned, there's a guy in Washington who is testing 10% of farms in United States. 10%. How would you feel if they tested 10% of the athletes at the Olympics? He said, well, why not test all of them? Like, we're talking about a $150 test here. We're not talking about like a $10,000 test. Simple little test. And by the way, the test for fertilizer is visual, right? And there is a test later called isotopic discrimination, but most of it is just visual. In any case, so there he's going to test 10%, but get this, the domestic farmers of whom he's going to test 10%, they only fill 20% of the market, 20% of the $30 billion market per annum. The other 80% comes from China, Mexico, Indonesia, and Brazil, and he has no authority to test them. And you might think, well, that's their sovereign country, they can do what they want, but no, they don't have organic standards. They use the American or the Canadian standard, depending on which country they're shipping to. And on paper, at least, we inspect them. The CFIA, through a private certifying body who has an office over in China, inspects those Chinese farms, which means they just look at their paperwork.
Okay, so essentially, right, what you're saying is that they're paying lip service, right?
Totally.
Right, and how do we get to a point? How do we fix this? How do we? Obviously, there's got to be some element of enforcement. There's got to be a change in the certification process. So, what do we do? What do we do to fix? Can we go back to where we are, or if the term's been hijacked? What do we do from here?
Well, that's interesting you mentioned that. The term's been hijacked, so a lot of organic purists, and by the way, they cover the extreme left and extreme right of the political spectrum. They kind of meet up out there on the North 40. In any case, yeah, they say the term's broken and we need a new one. No, we've got to reclaim the term, because the term was defined like at least 100 years ago. And if we come up with a new one, it's going to be like, it'll be a day old the next day. And we got something here that belongs to all of us already. So I say we got to take it out of the hands of the bureaucrats. And again, the system is broken. That's often a term that gets applied. Like they say, Parliament is broken because, but it wasn't always broken. And by the way, I don't think Parliament's broken, but I just use the example because things have, in some people's minds, have deteriorated. But no, as I'm describing here, it was just broken from the onset. And what has to happen is you just have to look at some obvious models out there. How are restaurants inspected? Can you imagine a restaurateur getting a call from the health inspector saying, is it okay if I come next week, Tuesday? Okay, wait, well, how about Wednesday then? Is that okay? Like, give me a break. They literally walk in the kitchen, and you can imagine if you're a delivery guy and you come during supper, they'll kick you out. But if you're a food inspector, they're like, oh, geez, this is serious. And they come in, they take swabs, they take food samples, see you later. That's how there's nothing new to that, is my point. If you talk to some organic activists about this, oh, it's going to be obtrusive, it'll be onerous, who's going to pay for this? The average organic farmer right now pays $1,000 a year just to apply to be organic. When it comes time to sell their crop, they pay a royalty, a user fee on every bushel that they sell. It's about 1% to 3%.
So there's no real incentive there, is there?
No, if you're the enforcement body, why would you want to put one of these guys out of business? Now, they do every now and then throw one to the wolves because they got to look like they're doing something. And it's usually the farmer who didn't keep up on his paperwork.